first, I want to thank you for joining us for this interview. And what I want you to do is tell the audience, first of all, what your name is, what you did on your film, and what your film is.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is David Busch, and my film is called Stopped Motion: The Story of Gulp. And it is a sort of comedic documentary about the rise and fall of Gulp, who is a claymation dinosaur who conquers Hollywood. And then, as with all movie stars, things go to his head and there are problems and scandals. And he falls down on his face a few times. But it's mostly a comedy, and it's combining live action with stop motion animation, which stop motion is something that I've always been a fan of. And in fact, that's how I first got started filmmaking when I was a little kid. My dad had a Super 8 movie camera, and I used to be still am into movies like King Kong and Godzilla and that sort of thing. And as a kid, I read a lot of books about how these movies were made and what the process of stop motion animation was. I was a big Ray Harryhausen fan, who is sort of the master of that. And we bought a cable release for our Super 8 camera, which is just a little cable that comes out and allows you to take frame by frame stills with it as on film. And so I started making these movies with little claymation dinosaurs in my backyard. I was like 9 or 10 years old. And one of the creatures I created was a dinosaur called Gulp. Actually,
Oh, you have it.
I have this is Gulp for the audience at
Nice.
home. And he is a dinosaur who was so named in my original film because I had a bunch of little Lego buildings, and he basically just went around and ate the buildings and gulped them down. So his name was Gulp. And that was my first foray into filmmaking. And this was 1980-ish, 81, something like that. And since then, I made a lot of little Super 8 films as a kid. And then I got into theater in high school, into acting, and ended up majoring in theater at the University of Iowa. And I moved out to California after college to pursue a career as an actor. And I had some little bits of success, but it's a very hard business, as I'm sure everyone who is involved in making films knows. And I ended up taking a side route into the business, getting a job as a PA at DreamWorks Animation.
Wow.
And I ended up working at DreamWorks for 5 years and sort of working my way up in the animation world until I was a production supervisor. I worked on The Road to El Dorado, Spirit, and Sinbad while I was there. And then after that, I worked for a couple smaller animation studios, Klasky Chupo, Titmouse, places like that. And then also started learning while I was there, because those studios were smaller, a little lower budget, and tended to need all hands on deck to kind of get things done on schedule. So I started learning about editing and compositing in After Effects, just to help get projects done. And as I learned more on that, I started experimenting again with making my own films, and eventually this led to the resurrection of Gulp, who was my stop motion character, as I brought him back for a little short comedy film that I made while I was at Titmouse. And then over the years, this kind of just expanded to me making short films of various kinds, but always ended up coming back every couple of years to this dinosaur character. And as the pandemic was kicking in 2020, my wife and I, Kadri Nelson, who is co-producer of the film and stars in it with me and with Gulp, we were looking for a film to make, and something that we could do without a lot of people and without having to be in the shared space with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so we came up with this idea of making a documentary about Gulp and his career in Hollywood. And it just kind of spiraled from there until we had what's almost a feature length. It's about 50 minutes long and combines footage from ourselves over the years from like some of these short films we've made, and also takes a lot of documentary style footage of us in high school, or actual Super 8 footage of me in grade school, and using tricks of compositing and editing. I've added in our friend Gulp interacting with us throughout the years, and just created the story of how we all became this trio of superstars conquering the film world. And yeah, that's basically it. Basically, yeah, that's all. Simple. But yeah, Kadri and I, we co-wrote it together and co-produced it. I directed, and then I also act in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I do all the animation, all the editing, and all of the compositing as well. So it was kind of a little, very small crew. Usually the two of us. Occasionally we roped a couple other people in. But by design, it was something that we could make by the two of us in our house, and didn't need to involve, going out in the world and, interacting with too many people. This room, in fact, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the last thing. This room, in fact, became my animation studio in that I set up a green poster board on the wall and a little record player stand, which was my little stage for the claymation. And I had a DSLR over here that I would be taking still pictures and then like moving the character frame by frame, and then bringing that into After Effects and compositing it afterwards with the live action and whatever was required for the scene.
So I have to ask, because it is a lot of the archival footage actual real footage from your past, your wife's past, with Gulp in it. I mean, how much of it did you like recreate, or was most of it like from your own personal archival videos?
The vast majority of it is from our own personal archival videos. There's a few scenes where I enlisted my nephew to play the young version of me. When you see young me interacting with this dinosaur, those scenes were recreations, if you will, of our lives back then. But everything with Kadri, all of that is real archival footage we've heard. Nothing is faked, or at least nothing is. I didn't try to make her look younger, like she was in high school or college or anything. That's all real high school and college footage. And for me too, there's scenes of me in the high school plays and in theater, and pretty much all of that is actual footage that I then took and doctored a bit for this.
Yeah, well, I'd be surprised to know what type of footage you left out. You did a really good job integrating your archival footage with the actual story that goes on. It flows really well. So did you watch all your archival footage and then crafted the story around it, or did you just happen to have a lot of archival footage that you could throw in there for your story? Because it works really well.
Oh, thank you. A lot of it was, well, we had a rough idea of the kind of footage that we wanted to use. We didn't necessarily know the exact clips. And as we were recording, like the majority of the story is told through our interview footage of the two of us. And as we were recording that, we did one day for me, one day for her. And we had sort of a loose framework of what the story was going to be and a couple key points that we wanted to touch on. But a lot of that we sort of improv'd on the spot. Like, I would just ask Kadri, tell me what happened when we went to the Cannes Film Festival with our movie. And then she would improv around that a bit. And I'd ask her, what happened? Tell us about our wedding. And she would talk about that and whatever the situation was. And then, I got tons of footage, several hours of footage of us. And then I took that, and over the course of the next year, I would edit that into place to build the story, and then plugged in bits of archival footage as I saw fit. Like I knew, for example, that I wanted, a shot of me in a high school play,
Mm-hmm.
and with Gulp, the dinosaur. And at first I thought I'll just get a photograph of me from one of my high school plays and then composite him into it as a still. But I couldn't find the right photograph that I wanted. So then I thought, well, I've got these VHS tapes from these high school plays in the basement. I'll get them up. I'll look through some stuff. Maybe I'll capture a still. And then ended up finding like what I thought was a workable scene that's just me on stage with one other actor. And I thought, well, why don't I just show the whole scene? So I captured 30 seconds of the scene and then assigned myself a ridiculous amount of work to animate a claymation character, cut out the other actor, take him out of the scene, replace the background behind him, and then make it like match up exactly with where the actor is moving and talking and what we're saying. And it was a lot of that where I would work on one section and then find old photographs or old clips of us, and then I also, as I was piecing it together, wrote some narration that then could be put in to like fill in this connective tissue where I didn't have a particular a piece of footage or a scene that we wanted to show, but I could have a narrator kind of in documentary style, filling in anything that wasn't covered by our audition or our interview footage.
Okay. So what made you decide this was the style you want to do your film, as a documentary that just happened to have a claymation character as one of the main characters of the story?
Part of it was just that we hadn't done a claymation thing in a while, and it's been probably 5 years since I'd done anything with Gulp, and so I thought, well, it's about time to do something. And part of it was just thinking, well, what would be funny to do? A lot of times we'll get these like funny little ideas, like what if we did a sci-fi parody movie? What if we did a parody of an avant-garde French film, whatever. And it's kind of easier to do little 2-minute snippets of that rather than write a whole sci-fi parody film and do it. So the documentary style worked well, of like we could come up with funny ideas and write and storyboard, a little 2-minute piece that works, that we can fit in between interviews. And it also lent itself easily to when we would come up with a funny idea that we could easily insert like another bit of footage into here, because it's a bit modular where we talk about something, then we show a scene, talk about something, show some photographs, as any documentary is. And it just seemed like a funny way to tell this story. Originally we thought, oh, it'll be 15-20 minutes at most. And then as we were writing it, recording it, working on it, we just kept coming up with different ideas, and it just slowly ballooned out into this thing where it's, almost a feature-length film. But also I had nothing but time, because I had lots of lockdown time in the house, that came up with an idea. It's like, well, just sit in the office and make it happen.
So what made you stop at 50 minutes? Because I kind of like think, man, this is actually really good. You got a full story going on, and the whole climb to stardom, and then the fall, and then the resolution. And I was like, oh, we should have been like a feature film. I like 50 minutes is good. But I'm wondering if it's harder to, because it's not 30 minutes or less, and it's not feature length. Is it harder for you to send this out, or what has the response been to this medium length?
Yeah, it is a bit of a weird length, and really it just ended up that length because that ended up feeling right as I was editing it, and it felt like we had told the story, and we had enough enough jokes, enough comedy, and a little bit of you know, mild tugging at your heartstrings here and there. Um, but yeah, it was very loose, and so the idea was, if this ends up being 30 minutes, great. If it ends up being an hour and 20, great. And it just sort of fell into being about 50 minutes long.
Mm.
So it wasn't necessarily a plan from the start.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's a little more difficult to get a film like this at that length uh, in festivals because, yeah, a lot of short film guidelines are 30 minutes or less or 20 minutes or less, and feature films are often like 60 minutes or more. And so, yeah, it might have been a little easier if it was 65 minutes long or 30 minutes, but it just felt right in the end. And we had other ideas that didn't make it in that we could have probably produced and put in to pad the length out if we wanted to make it a feature, but it felt like it just kind of hit a natural length. And so, yeah, so we ended it there.
No, I always ask because I always get filmmakers who ask me about the whole length of their films when they're sending it off the film festival. And I keep telling them, you just need to make the film as long as it feels right. Because if you add too much extra filler, it feels longer than it should be. And if it's too short, then it feels like it's way too short and you want more story. The thing about your film, this is why I wanted to ask, is I never felt the time as I was watching it. I kind of watched
Okay.
it, and you had that peak where Gulp is the star, the huge star. Then he becomes a director, becomes a little crazy after the relationship issues, and he has this fall. And then you go into the third act, and it's pretty fast. But it's fast, but it's the perfect length because the audience has been laughing the entire time. They don't want to see Gulp, on the very bottom,
Right.
very long. And you give a good resolution on how how his story goes, which is why I was like, 50 minutes actually worked for your film. I was like, but most other filmmakers may not know that that's actually a good time if your story is worth 50 minutes. You don't have to pad it. And trust me, I have seen plenty of
Right.
films that have padded their films more than they ever should have.
It's true, yeah, because yeah, you see from time to time you'll see films that are 2 hours but don't need to be 2 hours, or the other way around that maybe are 8 minutes long, but you think, oh, this could have been longer. This could have been 15 because I'm interested enough and I want to know more. But yeah, I feel like films or stories in whatever medium, they have a natural length that they want to be. And um this is going to sound like super artsy and pretentious, but also like sometimes just letting the film decide how long it wants to be
Mhm.
or where it wants to end is a way to do it. Because I didn't have a specific plan in mind for that, but just as I was editing it, uh, it felt right. And there was a time when I did pull a part out of it. There, the like 70s cop parody,
Oh,
which that we had made like 5 years ago as its own standalone thing. And at one point I thought, is it too much? Do I have too many parodies in it? And I pulled it out and then I found, oh no, it's really missing that. And that piece always seems to go over well when we've shown it to people. So I put it, it ended back in.
good, because I was actually laughing my ass off at that. I
Oh,
had
great, good.
I had too many ideals of it parodying these cop movies where you get that crazy, like, hard nosed single cop who suddenly is partnered with the outsider character or something. I was like, oh my god,
Exactly.
he's parodying an entire genre of cop film. This is perfect.
That's
Uh,
right, yes. But
I
yeah, we had other ideas that at one point Kader and Gulp were going to have a cooking show together on the Food Network, and I thought maybe like he'd guest star on the Love Boat or something like that at one point. And there's lots of like things like that that could have worked and could have filled it out, or maybe been a little montage. But yeah, it didn't feel like it needed anymore. Plus, it's just basically me making this movie frame by frame, and it takes a long time to do stop motion animation and then composite it all. So at some point, it needs to be done. Yeah.
So in theory, how long did it take you to do all the animation, or because I know you started or you kind of formulated most of it during the pandemic. So how long did it take you to do most of the like the stop motion animation type? What was
Uh,
the
the
process?
film, the film overall took about a year and a half to
Okay.
make from start to finish, and I was doing the animated scenes sort of in between editing other parts. So I would edit a sequence and then I would do the animation for that sequence. And
Mm.
then I would edit another live action sequence, then do the animation. Um, the longest scene to do was that high school, or the longest single scene to do was that high school play scene I was talking about earlier. That took
Oh,
about 3 weeks total from start to finish of uh, nonstop work on that. But overall, like any given shot of Gulp, they're usually 4 to 6 seconds long, and I animate on two, so that's 12 frames a second for the
oh, okay.
animation. And so uh, a simple shot where it's just his head and he's reacting to something, I can animate that in half an hour or
Oh,
so. And then compositing doesn't take that long for one shot. But like the more complicated scenes where, for example, you see him walking, you see his feet touching the ground, I've got to like really nail the lighting so that he looks like he's wedded into the environment. Got to
mm,
add shadows under it. Sometimes I add, a little bit tough of grass that are under his feet so he feels like he's really integrated into the ground. If he's interacting with another person, that takes a little longer because I've got to be more specific in charting out how many frames he does each action, because I'll get the live action animated or live action edited first, and I'll know this shot is 400 frames long, and I'm interacting with Gulp, so I've got to chart out how many frames my dialogue is, and then how many frames his dialogue needs to be, and then my response to him. So those scenes take a little longer, and those take
mm.
a lot of prep time, and then probably a couple of hours to animate that, and then uh, you know another half an hour or something per shot to composite it. So I'd have to figure out exactly how many hours I spent, but I mean hundreds and hundreds of hours over the course of the project, animated and compositing and adding effects, adding lighting, teleportation effects, which I had to figure out exactly how to do. Yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, overall, from start to finish, the film took uh, about a year and a half.
Okay.
And so we started with the interviews where we're telling the main story. And then every now and like we'd take a day or two and go to a location and shoot live action footage. So we went to Pella, which is a little Dutch town in Iowa, and that stood in for Paris because I needed
Wow.
something that could look relatively European. And it's about an hour and a half away. So we drove there and shot all the live action for that in a day and drove back. And there's a sequence in the sci-fi movie section where it's sort of like a Stonehenge area, and that's a local Harvest Prairie Preserve in town. So I contacted them and got permission to shoot there. So we took a day
Oh.
and drove up there and took our cameras and stuff and a drone and shot up there. And so yeah, we would kind of do that. We'd pick a sequence we were doing and take the cameras out to the woods or whatever, and spend a day or two doing this sequence. And then I'd spend a couple of weeks designing the animation, animating the characters, and compositing it. And then a couple of weeks later, we'd pick a different sequence. We'd go to whatever that location is, shoot that. I'd edit it. So it's yeah, very compartmentalized in a way, which uh, is a lot of work, but also it was something that sort of kept us sane during lockdown times and gave us something kind of fun and positive to work on that distracted us from like all the drama in the world.
What was your favorite aspect of doing this film? Because you wear a lot of hats in this film.
Yes, yes, I do indeed. Um, I think my favorite aspect I always love when we're getting very silly and doing specific parody scenes. I think if I had to pick an overall favorite, it would probably be the pretentious French film that we're doing, where there's sort of a Seventh Seal parody where Gulp and I are playing a chess match out in the middle of the woods somewhere, and it gets just really strange and crazy. The editing that was the most fun because just going out and figuring out what some pretentious like art school kind of film would look like, and like, oh, finding some weeds in the sun and filming these beauty close-ups of like these weeds, and like I don't know, transitioning in and out of all this kind of, I don't know, David Lynchy, Bergman kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
But also the whole uh, behind the scenes of the making the sci-fi movie when Gulp loses it and like
Yeah.
trashes the studio. Um, I work at a company doing video work, and we have this giant green screen studio at work. So I had access to that location anytime I wanted. So recruited a few friends who are actors and went in there and did that. And that was a lot of fun because it seems every documentary about filmmakers has a scene when their bad behavior affects their career. And knowing that I wanted to have a scene where it's all gone to Gulp's head and he like flips out and trashes the place and chases everybody away. Like I knew that would just be lots of fun. So there's a scene where he flips the craft service table over, and that's actually I'm hiding under the table and like waited till the camera was rolling and then just like threw this table up and shot it in slow motion so we could see all this stuff crash on the floor. And yeah, seeing that shot turn out and then animating the dinosaur so that he's flipping it over in slow motion, that was one of the more fun pieces to do. But yeah, it was just also I think like it's the movie was made not necessarily in order,
Hmm.
and I can sort of tell when I'm watching it like which pieces I did towards the end, because I think I got better at what I was doing towards the end.
Oh.
Um, I've done like silly animation for a long time, but I think as it went on, I got uh, got more experience in like giving Gulp expressions and making him look sad or making him look happy, or and I think actually seeing in myself like some progression as a ridiculous character animator was kind of fun too.
So I have to ask, are we going to see Gulp in another short or a film later on, or since you've been doing little films with him for I don't know how long actually?
Uh,
Uh,
40-ish years, yeah. Off and on, yeah.
that's impressive actually. That's really impressive. And then of course you
Thank you.
culminate with this film here. So are we going to see some more Gulp?
Absolutely, there will be more Gulp at some point. I don't have anything written yet, but you can never keep a good dinosaur down. So it will absolutely return at some point. And I don't know. Next time it might be. We're thinking it might be a full film that is like one of these films within the film. So we might do like James Bond parody, but like do it from start to finish as its own piece or something like that. Yeah.
Oh my God. I would be very interested in seeing that.
Oh,
I love
good.
I love seeing the short clips from all the movies, but an actual whole film would be very interesting. Uh,
Yeah, it would be a lot of work, but
yeah, I
I'd
bet
be
you it
excited to
would.
do it. Yeah. So
Or
yeah,
you could always spend I don't know how many seasons your Gulp in the Stash was supposed to be, but you can always
yes,
do something like that.
that's true. Yeah, and that's actually something we've talked about is like maybe we do a full half-hour episode of that at some point, and just as a period piece, as if
Oh
it was
my
made in
God.
1982 or whatever. So that could happen at some point. Yeah, but yeah, Gulp
So
will definitely be back at some point.
Good, 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 good. Are you now that we're coming out of the COVID thing? I'm hoping that you're seeing a lot of good feedback for this film as it's going its festival circuit. But are you working on anything else currently, or is your focus mostly on getting this one out there to film festivals and getting it out to the audience to experience it?
A little of both. I do have a script for another live action film, short comedy that is mostly done. It's a short sci-fi comedy kind of piece that'd probably be about 10 to 15 minutes long.
Oh,
That
okay.
I'm hoping to shoot this spring at some point. No dinosaurs in that yet, but you never know. But yeah, I've been focused a lot in the last year, like getting this out to festivals and getting to some of them in person when possible. And yeah, screening quite a few and has a few more to come in the spring. And yeah, picked up a couple of awards. Yeah, so hopefully it'll continue to get played. Yeah, I still have quite a few left to hear from.
Okay.
And hopefully it'll, yeah, get a lot more as it comes over the next few months. But yeah, then this spring, hoping to shoot something new and something that'll be a little quicker and easier to produce and get out in front of the world than this film was. But it'll actually have more people in a room together because it's safer now to do that. So yeah, this one will have a cast of 8 or 10 people and all
So,
interact together.
I have to ask, because I ask all the filmmakers, I always want them to give a few words of advice or something for the audience to hopefully they get from the film. Is there any words you want to give to our audience, or is there anything you want to say towards our filmmakers who watch your film? Any type of advice or anything like that?
Yeah. I guess what I would say, I tend to make the kind of things that I want to see.
Mhm.
So I make weird little films that are maybe something that isn't out there currently, or something that just amuses me or excites me or makes me laugh or cry, whatever. And I think as someone who makes short films and enters them in festivals, that's really important, is just to make things that you enjoy and that you are passionate about, as opposed to thinking too much about what the audience will be and what success you will have. Like I try to make weird, silly things that I find amusing, and then I hope that other people do as well. And when they do, that's a huge reward, and it's great. And if they don't, then I just say, well, I made it for me, I guess. So if people don't appreciate it, that's their problem. But yeah, I think make the things you're passionate about and keep trying to make different things and different films and put them out there. And I don't know, never let anyone tell you what you can or can't do. If you can learn to do it and can execute it and get it done and in front of an audience, then that's a success right there, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I'll agree with you. Mostly because the way, and I'm a storyteller. I just happen to like enjoy your film because you came, like I said before, you came up with a story that may have seemed a little bit weird with the claymation character, but you gave all your characters an arc, and then of course it came down to when normally when your hero has his little downfall, but then how he resolves that, and I don't even know the best word to say. He resolves that, and he comes out on top at the end. Now, the way that all three of your main characters interact was beautifully crafted, and even though the claymation, I mean, one of your main characters is a claymation, it did not affect the way that the story was told. So anyone watching this film should be able to watch and see a huge character arc and progression of all the characters and enjoy it because it's funny, it's dramatic, it has it has those moments where you're really rooting for for the claymation character Gulp, but not just him, but the love story between the main two characters, and it's a film that you might think at first to throw away because you see a claymation character on the poster. But when you watch it, it is a truly engulfing experience from beginning to end. So I hope people actually see it for that. Like, take a chance. You know, you did a claymation character. It's not supposed to be a really Harryhausen skeleton fighting type of claymation. Your main character is, you know, he's crude, he's simple, but it's funny. It goes with the story that you're making. So I hope people watch it and enjoy it for that aspect alone, because like I said, I'm an old school claymation person. I love that stuff too. I can't do it, so I commend you for spending 1.5 years doing this one. No matter how crude it is, I was a kid when I loved that stuff. Your film, kids will love the film because it will remind them of dinosaurs. Claymation.
Right. Well, I'm glad that came across, because that was one of our central like mantras kind of when we made this film, is it's an absurd concept. It's, you know, the claymation dinosaur, he's a giant movie star, and we all just sort of accept that in the movie. But to try and treat it as if it was as real as possible, like he's a real character, and when we're doing our interview segments talking about our relationship with him, it's heightened because it's kind of a silly subject, but also we tried to emotionally treat it like we're real people and this really happened to us. It's a real story that you know, affected us as people, as characters. And I think that's always the key to making absurd concepts work well, is if the actors and the director treat it as if it's as serious as anything else, even though you're doing something that may seem ridiculous. But if you believe it's real when you're doing it, and you treat it like we're all just different characters in a real world inhabiting this kind of crazy reality, then hopefully that comes through when people watch it, and you'll feel more attachment to you know, a clay dinosaur than you might otherwise if you kind of threw it away.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us for our film festival, Something Wicked FanFest 2022.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'm going to be looking forward to more of anything that you come up with next. So feel free to send us or drop us a line, because we have 3 film festivals running throughout the year. We're a little crazy over here at Something Wicked.
Nice. You gotta be, you know, you have to be.
But I will. It is, but I will tell you this: I will never do another film festival around the freaking holiday.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We've had
so much else going on.
Yeah, we had so many issues. Thankfully, we're gonna still have it. We're having it this weekend. We're getting it out there, but it's not as clean as I would have liked it, like our regular film festival, which takes place in the first week of August. But we'll know that for when we do it next year. I'll tell you that now.
Yeah, you learn every time.
we learn. But
there'll be different problems next time, and you'll learn from those too. You know, that's how it all goes.
Yes, but thank you so much. We wish you nothing but continued success for this film and film festivals, and we would love to see the next film you two come up with. You
got it. I'll send it your way. Well, thanks so much for having me. This was really fun.
Good. Well, you have a good evening, and hopefully we'll get to talk another time.
Yeah, I hope so. All right. Well, take care.